Hello everyone, Storm11 here. Today we'll be talking about some severe weather that been going on across parts of the central and northern plains today. Could be pretty significant for some areas there as well. We also got some of the tropics to talk about. We got a little update on the potential tropical system that may come up in the southwestern Gulf there. So let's go to get started with the severe weather side of things for today. And it could be a pretty significant one. It's been a little bit since we had a significant severe weather potential. The last time that we had significant severe weather was across parts of Nebraska and Kansas. So where we had a moderate risk about 2 days ago there, which fortunately I was on vacation during that time, so I was not able to make a video on that setup. But today I'm able to make a video, thank goodness, on this severe weather setup. So we got a pretty large enhanced risk across really for northeastern Montana, most of the Dakotas, and a good chunk of Nebraska here. Well, not most of North Dakota, but at least the western half of North Dakota. That's a better way to put it. Primary threat, there will be several tornadoes in some places. Now, I do expect probably an expansion of the 5%, maybe even upgrade to a 10% chance for tornadoes somewhere in northeastern Montana in parts of North Dakota. And that's where we could see multiple supercells up there that may have the chance to produce all hazards like very large hail, damage winds, and a few tornadoes. I don't really expect to see strong tornadoes out of this setup, but a few tornadoes is possible up there as well. It'll be some of the similar regions as experienced severe weather yesterday, which some of those storms were actually very photogenic. And some of those supercells, I've seen some of the pictures and the mesocyclone that looked like a mothership. I mean, that's just pretty cool right there, in my opinion. Yeah, at least it's in over, most of it was in rural areas in Montana, so it was pretty cool to see that. I think the biggest threat out of this setup here is going to be the wind. And where you see that hatch area there, that means significant severe, that shows that some of those wind gusts could be uh, 75 miles an hour or greater in some of these storms. And then you got the hail threat, which pretty much stays in the western part of the enhanced risk. And again, that hatch area means there might be a chance for 2 inches of diameter or larger hail uh, for the hail part of side of things. And they do mention that in a moderate risk is possible. Now, if there's going to be a moderate risk, I think it's more likely to be wind driven because we're going to see probably a pretty large mesoscale convective system here. Where do I think a moderate risk is going to be? I think it's going to be somewhere right in here. It's probably where your moderate risk is going to be. More than likely somewhere in central Nebraska, central South Dakota, and maybe into parts of southern North Dakota as well. That might be a little too far north, but more than likely these areas right in here will be the areas to watch here for the chance for some significant winds. Uh, Now, I think the enhanced risk, in my opinion, could get expanded probably a little closer to Glasgow there in Montana and might get to see an upgraded tornado risk. There could be a couple supercells up there that may produce a tornado or two, which is a possibility. Then we got a couple margin risk across the country. You got one in northern Wisconsin and upper Michigan. You got another one across northeastern Louisiana, west central Mississippi, and a good chunk of Arkansas. And then you got a marginal risk across kind of around the Fort Stockton area to Midland, Texas as well. So let's check out some models here. Let's check out the HER. Now, the HER does have a tendency to make too many supercells, but at this time, it's not really making too many supercells. It does show a pretty decent cluster of strong to severe thunderstorms that does develop in northeastern Montana. And these would be the ones to watch here as well. And then you got supercells all the way up into, I believe that's how you pronounce it, Sasquatchian, Canada. Hopefully I'm correct on that one, of pronunciation. And those will be going into parts of Canada there. So some of the storm chasers in Canada, wow, I'm having a hard time pronouncing today. Uh, they might be able to chase some of those supercells up there today. Here's a big time supercell in northwestern North Dakota. That'll eventually get into parts of Canada as well, and some other storms behind it. So pretty much in northwestern North Dakota and northeastern Montana, that's where I think your very large hail and your tornado threat is really going to be. For everywhere else, watch these storms down here. I believe these are going to be some big time hailstorms at first. Uh, I think the Hermon's a little bit underdone of some of those hailstorms there. But then later on, you can see here as they start to intensify, as they move a little further to the east, then it starts to become a little bit more of a squall line here. This is where your WG wind threat starts to come into play. Let me actually change the color here to pink so it's a little easier to see. And as we kind of continue over the next hour, let me check out this organized squall line here. And this is going to be moving quickly to the east, and the southern end is going to be moving to the southeast. But also got to watch this severed piece here. This will actually break off from the main part here. This may affect severe weather across parts of Nebraska, southwestern Iowa, northwestern Missouri, into parts of Kansas. That might affect those folks in the morning for the chance for severe weather, which we do have a margin of risk for the SPC, which a slight risk might be needed. It's a possibility. Some models showing it continuing throughout most of the day, all the way down to parts of southwestern Missouri. Some other models say it'll completely die out. I might buy a little bit more to probably continuing, just given the fact there is going to be quite a bit of cape out there, and there'll still be some upper level dynamics left there before it kind of dies out. Now we're starting to get into the pretty much in the middle of the night here, at least getting close to in Central Time. I may check out the squall line here, and some of these storms might produce damage to wind gusts of maybe 75 or 80 miles an hour in some places. Let me actually pull up College of DuPage real quick. And the HERMO, we do have a tool here for the HER on here on this website. And it actually indicates those wind gusts at the surface here. Now that's 15Z. Let's go back to 14Z. Let's check out those winds. And wow. Wow, wow, wow. Check that out. Northeastern Montana. I think that's a little overkill. 90 knots. That's 100 plus mile-an-hour wind gusts. Gosh. That's insane. But I think that's an overkill. But then as you get to the squall line part of things, it does have some places 71 knots. That's about 75, 80 miles an hour. Wind gusts, that's probably going to be the max out of these storms. Some places actually a little higher. That's actually close to 80 knots. So that's 85 mile per hour wind gusts. But generally, most of the line here is really 60, probably 60, maybe 65 mile an hour wind gusts, kind of on that leading edge as well. So that's definitely a little bit crazy there. And that's the max there, the 14Z run. And we'll go back to 12Z here. Same way on here. Now, for the dynamics part of things, there is going to be plenty of cape out there, probably anywhere from 2,000 to 3,500 joules per kilogram. That's plenty. You got the upper wind dynamics, especially at 850 millibars. There's going to be a good level jet. In similar situation for 500 millibars, there's going to be strong upper level winds. So these storms have pretty good upper wind dynamic support here for these storms that continue to be pretty strong here. Here's 12Z run here, pretty similar to the 14Z run. See some of those massive storms. I mean, that's been a little bit consistent for that big storm. I'm wondering what that's going to be like if it verifies. And let me check out this big squall line here. And into the early morning hours, this actually may affect places in western Minnesota into parts of western Iowa here. And you kind of see you're getting off the screen here. Like I said, that severed end is going to continue here a little bit further here. There's a little bit better, a little bit more instability to work with. And there's also some wind dynamics there as well. We're not going to be 100% sure how long that's going to continue for. MCSs like this can be very unpredictable of how long they will continue, so it may continue on a little bit longer than what models show. It's a possibility as well. But either way, there's going to be a pretty big severe weather outbreak for the Central and Northern Plains. No doubt about it. Most models agree here. There's not much of any disagreements or anything like that. Wow, it's even picking up on this run too for some significant wins. Uh, we'll see what it's got there. If it's going to load. Doesn't look like it's going to. But you could definitely see here, along that line there, could be some significant damage to winds that could happen across those places as well. And that's at least 35 knots. That's 85 mile per hour wind gusts possible from that one storm. But I'm not really buying too much into it right now. I think that's a little bit overkill. Check out the high-rise dam here, showing pretty similar here. It's even showing that big old supercell that might pop up in northeastern Montana. So we definitely need to watch for that storm there. Now the high-rise dam does have wind gusts at the surface as well, just like the herd does. So we'll look at that as well. Let that load for a little bit. And then you're going to see again here some big storms early on. These are probably going to be big hailstorms at first with those strong updrafts within those storms, and then when it becomes more linear, it'll move a little faster to the east, southeast, and then that's where you get your damage winds. I mean, that's a pretty nasty complex of storms if you ask me. And I forgot to get soundings from the HER, but we'll check out some of the soundings for the high-res NAM, and I tell you what, that's a pretty good sounding right there. Yeah, probably the only downside to the sounding here is the low overlap rates. 5.7 Celsius per kilometer. I think that's what that is. I'm not completely sure about that. But anyways, check out the temperature line in the dew point line. You can see how that's spread apart there at the surface and the mid levels. That indicates there could be some very strong, some strong winds up there. It also indicates some dry air. Like for example, this is like your elevated mix layer right here, which would be favorable for some big hailstorms early on. But for the damage to wind part, if you got something like this at the surface, that's favorable for damage to winds. Uh, and even for significant damage to winds as well. Also, your downdraft cape as well, 1500, that's fairly favorable. Really, all you need is like 800, and we got 1500. That's plenty. And you also got your upper wind dynamics. There's also some wind direction in the low levels as well. So that's a little bit interesting. Also, your LCL and your LFC there. It's a little bit high, far off the ground there. So these are going to be high-based variety storms. Probably not going to see too much in the way of photogenic shelf clouds with this, with something like that. But either way, could be a pretty big severe weather event there as well. And there's also plenty of wind shear. Story to felicity numbers, 200 plus. That's favorable for some, not only for damage winds, but even for tornadoes as well. Pretty much the same thing here, but there is a little bit of a cap in the mid levels, but I think the updrafts might be strong enough to blow through that cap there. You can see here, there's plenty of cape out there. Downdraft cape is actually much higher, close to 2,000. That's pretty crazy. Story to felicity numbers, pretty high. You got a pretty good hodograph as well. So maybe on the separate tail end of the squall line here, may need to watch for any potential tornadoes or anything like that on the tail end of the squall line here. And also for the lap rates, it's a little bit stronger in the low levels, a 6.6, so it ain't too bad. That may limit a little bit on your damage and wind potential. But just given with the other numbers and everything else, I think it's I don't think that's going to matter a whole lot. But check out those lap rates in the mid levels, 9.3 Celsius per kilometer. Uh, that's pretty good, and that's pretty sufficient for some big time hailstorms as well. Well, if I show you guys the forecast thing is on her, which I did take a look at it before I started this video, it's pretty much the same thing. Pretty much everything is the same thing as like the high res dam. So they both agree on the atmosphere. So we have a pretty decent agreement here. The NAM is a little bit different on the squall line here. It doesn't extend as far south as than what some of the other models show. But I think the high res dam and the HERP is probably a little bit realistic on this one. Given, but they're also been doing terrible this year with reflectivity wise. But we'll see what happens here. But either way, there's going to be a significant severe weather outbreak across the Central and Northern Plains. And I know there is some major drought issues across parts of North Dakota there, and they definitely need some rain. Well, good news is MCSs, storms like these, can produce a lot of rain in a short period of time. So there's a chance for flooding. This kind of leads to another part of the video here. You can see here there is a slight risk for some excessive rainfall, or you can say flooding. It works either way there, so that's some good news up there. They actually desperately need some rain. Nearly as bad as places out west here as well. Nearly as bad as those folks. That's how bad it is up there right now. And they're about to get some rain, which is some good news. Also, places that don't need any rain at all. Places like north central Mississippi, southeastern Arkansas, northeastern Louisiana, into parts of Alabama. We have a moderate risk for excessive rainfall. Excuse me, for those places in there. And those places have been receiving several inches of rain for the past couple of days here. Especially on the first day here, there were some places I believe that got at least 8 inches of rain. And today, they might be able to do that again. We actually have flash flood emergencies again down there as well, which some places have been receiving at least 4 inches of rain in a short period of time. Plus, those soils are very saturated. So basically, all those raindrops that kind of fall from the sky onto the ground, a lot of that is just going to run off. Uh, the grass, the trees, and all that vegetation doesn't need any more rain. Uh, so this is not good news here for flooding down there for today. We'll also have another moderate risk area. This actually includes parts of the Washington to Baltimore area into parts of a couple counties in south central Pennsylvania as well, and even including a good chunk of Maryland. And some of those towns there definitely need to watch for Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. Those places could flood easier than rural areas, as we all know of. And then we got this large cypress area, really anywhere from parts of the lower Ohio Valley into parts of the mid-Atlantic. And why do we have this margin of risk cut in here? Because these areas in here haven't received much of any rain. I mean, take for me, for example, here. I live like right here, very close to the cypress area. I never even got a quarter of an inch of rain. Meanwhile, everywhere else has got half an inch, 3/4 of an inch, even for a couple inches some places. I've been having really bad luck with rain on this setup here, which is very unfortunate because I actually gonna need some rain because after this weekend it's gonna be dry and my yard is starting to get pretty a little bit dry as well. Those dry patches are starting to show up in the yard, which is not good. But that's the flooding side of things, and this is all going on for today. If we move on to tomorrow, there's a slight risk for pretty much for the Mid-Atlantic. This time it includes parts of North Carolina. Then on day 3, couple margin risks. You got one for an area also needs some rain. Parts of the Carolinas there, they're starting to get pretty. They're actually going into a severe drought right now. You also got a margin risk for excessive rainfall for parts of the Texas Panhandle, the Oklahoma Panhandle, northeastern New Mexico, southwestern Kansas, to southeastern Colorado as well. I want to go back to SPC outlook real quick. I want to show you guys day 2. Like I said earlier in the video, almost forgot to show you guys this, but there's a margin risk there. That's like I said before, that little part of the MCS will continue a little bit longer than the rest of the part, and I actually may continue southeastward here. They may upgrade this to a slight risk here. They might even expand that margin risk a little further to southeast, but we will see about that. Plus, we also will check the Tropics Center. I think they start to update here. I think they're updating right now, but at the end of this video, we'll check out and see if the SPC has updated yet. Let's talk about the Tropics here real quick, and there is special changes. Change number 1, the main change, pretty much. This area here is gone. It didn't really develop too much of anything here. Also, doesn't really show that same low pressure system continue up here. So that's good news there. But I also want to monitor just east of North Carolina here. This area will be definitely need to be an area to watch here for any tropical development. No, it won't be going to landfall to North Carolina, but actually be moving away. The European model is almost has been showing a chance, pretty decent chances for tropical depression here to develop here. I believe it's like a 50 to 60% chance. I've seen that for someone posting it on Twitter. Good news is, after that, it does have no threat to land. It'll be going out to sea. It's going to be a little bit more of a fish storm. But if a tropical system were to develop there as a tropical depression, really the primary threats are going to be mainly probably some rain out along the east coast of North Carolina, and also probably some a little bit larger waves and rip currents as well. Which that might even go to places down to Myrtle Beach as well if one tropical system does develop out here, which may stay stationary for a little bit and eventually it goes out to sea. But there's a couple things going on in the Eastern Pacific. Like I was talking about the CAG, Central America Gyre. Uh, this thing here will be moving to the east here. It's kind of like a broad low here. And it's going to have a lot of moisture and also plenty of vorticity here. And this CAG might actually be able to develop 2 different systems. One right here and possibly one right here in the southwestern Gulf. I'm also been a little bit all over the place with the one in the southwestern Gulf, but that's just kind of to be expected here since we are still far out from this. But the European model does go out as far enough. This is where it's going to want to make landfall at, which we'll take a look to that. But that's obviously going to change as well. Meanwhile, models have a pretty decent agreement for development for this other low that may track up something like this here. I believe the European it's almost has got like a 50% chance of development there. Meanwhile, down here is a little bit lower of a 20 to 30% chance. Which I can't show you guys the European ensembles because I do not have access to that. I've just seen it on Twitter recently. So, yeah, on that. And they got the system here a 40% chance of development in the next 5 days here. This is all going to be part of that CAG that's going to be going on across Central America. So let's check out the Canadian model here. So we're going to go into a little bit later this week here. It's going to be hard to see here. It doesn't really pop up on here on the Canadian model. But you can see here a pressure of 1010 millibars right here. This is going to be a broad low pressure system right here. And it does have plenty of moisture to work with as well. And you kind of see there, that same little low right here. It's going to be kind of go along the coast there and eventually make landfall pretty early on. But I expect that to change. So just to keep in mind that. It kind of shows a similar situation for the secondary low. Be somewhere development out here and kind of goes along the Mexico coastline as well, which I find that a little bit interesting there. And then it goes out 10 days here and not really tropical development out there. Let's kind of go back to see where that tropical system could be. I believe this is it right here. So the Canadian model early on actually has a pretty weak low out here. It's going to continue to strengthen as it moves out to sea here. This ball is actually showing multiple tropical systems. So there goes one right there. Here comes another one coming offshore here. Goes way up there to the north. And then in 10 days, two different ones right here. So we got to watch this stationary front over the next several days here, where we do expect that cold front to move a little further south. Looks like it's going to become a little stationary when it gets into parts of the southeast there. Yeah. And then along that stationary front, out into the Atlantic, that's where we're going to watch for any more tropical systems there. So that's going to be something to watch here. And one of those may actually become Bill, which is the next name on the list there for the Atlantic hurricane season names. All right, let's take a look at the GFS model here using Windy. So as you can see here, here's one of those lows right here. And we're going to watch that move a little further to the northwest here. So you got one right here. You got another one developing right here. We're going to kind of play this along here, kind of show you guys where these will be going. So now this is Thursday afternoon. Got this one's right here. That's continuing to move to the northwest. And you got this one here, kind of stationary, but also moving a little bit north at the same time. If we move on to Friday here, both of these now start to intensify here. And then when you get to the day on Saturday here, that one right there kind of starts to dissipate. And then you got this one here, still continues to strengthen. And of course, it makes landfall in southeastern Texas and southwestern Louisiana. That's just terrible. But is it going to change? Yes, more than likely. So I won't buy this right now. But the European model says pretty much the same way, unfortunately. But you can see here, here's your low right here. It's actually got both of these systems decently on the strong side. Here's the winds here. If the European model is correct, it may make landfall as a tropical storm. And then on this other system here, it's also a tropical storm as well. That's just if the European model is correct. And that's what the European model is predicting. If you check out the GFS model here, it doesn't really get quite organized here. A little bit on the strong tropical depression side, but it may make landfall as a weak tropical storm there, which ain't as bad as a little bit of a stronger tropical storm, but we definitely need to watch for that closely here. And if I'm correct, there's some pretty warm waters out there, so we'll have some time here to develop. But then again, this can still change here. It could make landfall out here. It can make landfall right here. It can make landfall where the models are showing, or it can make landfall a little further east. We're going to see what happens here. There's still plenty of time for change on the models here, but we'll definitely have another update this here probably in a later video. But anyways, guys, that's all for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys like this video, hit that like button. If you really like my channel, hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell notification so you never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, and I almost forgot something. Did SPC Outlook update? Let's check out to see here. No, not yet. Oh, it's on the website. We can still check out on Twitter here. There's these bots things on here. No, they have not done that yet, so okay. Oh yeah, almost forgot something too. There's actually an extremely critical fire risk for northeastern Utah and northwestern Colorado for today. So even for areas in the critical area, definitely need to watch for any potential wildfires as well. Almost forgot about that. Um, definitely need to watch these areas here for any potential wildfire problems as well later today. But that's pretty much all for guys for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.